This is Field Commander Jeff of the battleship Who Sontar-ha. You feeble humans are on a mission to collect as much chocolate as you can, and I am joined by Right Honourable Field Commander Paul, sir, of the Who Sontar-ha battle fleet. Good evening, Paul.
Good evening, Commander Jeff. I am your snivelling servant, as always, sir, and I grovel at your feet with the alacrity of a spiel snape.
Are you ready to die in podcast battle for the honour of Sontar-ha?
I live for the glory of it, Commander. Let us be having it.
Sontar-ha.
Sontar-ha. Oh, God, that was awful. Yeah, it's not really a Sontaran battle fleet coming at you, people. This is Paul and Jeff from Who Corners a Corner. As you well know, because you'd have clicked on our podcast, presumably intentionally. If you did it by accident, then hello, please stay.
Yeah, if you're new to us, sorry.
Sorry.
So you might be wondering, as we are, why we've attempted to be Sontarans. Why
was that what it was?
Why did we do that? So tonight's episode, well, it's tonight when we're recording it, is we're looking back at the 10th Doctor two-parter, the Sontaran Stratagem / the Poison Sky. So recently we ran a poll, didn't we, Paul? We've done a number of polls where we've put out some of our favourite Doctor-specific episodes, 13th, 11th, 12th, and people have voted for which one they would like us to look back at and talk about. And we put out our selection for the 10th Doctor, and it included the Sontaran Stratagem and Poison Sky, and I can't actually remember what was winning the vote. So yes, after the sad news about the passing of Bernard Cribbins recently, we decided to sack off our poll and pick this Sontaran two-parter as our one to look at, so our two to look at, so that we could talk a little bit about Bernard Cribbins in them as a sort of little tribute, I suppose, to him. I've met Bernard a few times. He was very good friends with my dad through the world of fishing, and I'd see Bernard, you know, it's stuff that my dad would put on, fishing things that I would go along to, usually filming them every couple of years, and he'd always remember me, and we'd have a chat, and you know, he was just a really nice person. He had time for everyone, and you know, always kind of made you laugh, and was just, you know, just good company. All the stuff that you see people say about him is true, really. And so he was a really really nice guy, and you know, like I said, very good friend of my dad's. So he will be sadly missed by many people, as we saw, with things online after he passed away recently. So let's dissect a Sontaran two-parter. I haven't watched this one for a while.
Same, actually. Yeah, I haven't watched it for a while.
I'm trying to think when I last watched it. And I actually can't remember. So it's one I've always liked. I mean, Series 4 is filled with just great episodes, isn't it? There really isn't anything that isn't outstanding in it.
There's no duffers in there.
No, there's no duffers, and even, you know, no series has got anything truly terrible in it, as far as I'm concerned. But I always really enjoyed this two-parter for lots of reasons. You know, Donna and the Doctor were great in it. Martha was back, which was really good. You know, the Sontarans looked really good. Some great action. You know, it was quite a big scale. It you know, it was a global thing. But looking at it now, and this comment is understandable. So I still really enjoyed it. Yeah. But its look is quite dated. It is, which, like I said, it's quite an obvious thing to say, but like until not that long ago, you know, when I'd watch a Tennant or an Eccleston, it didn't feel visually dated. Yeah. And when you watch a classic Who, you know, you know it's of its time. And you know, you sort of, the effects are a bit rubbish and stuff, but that's as good as it was at the time. But now watching this episode, I was like, oh yeah, it's starting to sort of creep into classic Who visuals, if you see what I mean. You know, it's you know, obviously not as good as what we get now, but the story and everything still holds up on it. So, you know, as I'm sure I've said this on the podcast before, and I've certainly said it places that no one who listens to the podcast are going to have heard it, but, you know, if the story's good, it doesn't matter what the visuals are like, you know.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. It's just a general comment on it.
But that's the case with Doctor Who from the very start, though. It's something I've always thought. It's the stories are the things that have always drawn me into Doctor Who. I was a big fan of the Target novels before I'd seen most episodes, and it wasn't really until the 80s sort of kicked off that I started to become a fan, and then grew along with Peter Davison's Doctor. And it's interesting what you say, because this is now Freya and I were working this out. So this is 15 years old. 14 years old. It was 2008, right, when it was released. So Freya is 15 now. She was 1 year old when this came out, which means this is the equivalent of me watching Terror of the Autons in 1985, sort of mid Davison kind of era, when I was the same sort of age as my daughter now. So you think about how those Davisons look compared to the Pertwee stories, or vice versa, actually. You know, if you compared Terror of the Autons with the Caves of Androzani, there is a stylistic difference. There's, you know, an awful lot of, you know, it's a different way of telling a story. But in both cases, the stories are phenomenal, you know, and that's the thing that has always been Doctor Who's strength, the strength and the breadth of the storytelling. The fact that it could tell any story with any kind of setup anywhere in time and space has always been a draw, and as long as it maintains that, it's got a very strong future. Oh yeah,
it is literally creatively limitless. You know, they can do anything in it, which is.
They can do anything if they want. That was just a little song. I just decided I was going to sing there.
Yeah, thanks. I'll cut that.
It's all right. Cheer you up. So, yes, Sontarans and things. Well, we don't see them straight away, do we? No. We have a nice little pre-credit sequence in this one where somebody's getting kicked out of the Ratigan Academy, thrown mercilessly cast from this Academy of Genius
self-proclaimed genius, Luke Ratigan. And she's a journalist, isn't she, who's been investigating.
She threatens to spill the beans.
Yeah, she's been investigating.
I'm going to spill the beans, she says. Just you wait and get in my car, I'm going to drive off and I'm going to spill the beans.
That must be a deleted scene.
That was in Helen Rayner's first draft.
So, Atmos is the what was it? Atmospheric systems.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. I've been looking on the internet for about an hour trying to figure out because I didn't write it down. Well done.
So we first saw the Atmos logo in Partners in Crime. The first
we did.
Series 4,
so a little logo. Yeah,
on the taxi, and you know, it's very simple, but it crops up a few times, I think, or at least that once anyway, and it's enough to kind of make you think, oh, you know, it was obviously shown, so you knew, oh, Atmos, that's going to be something.
It's going to pay off later.
Yeah, and it paid off here. So, the pre-credits bit involves the car driving itself, doesn't it? And
yes.
She wants to go to unit.
Well, she's on the phone, isn't she, as well? So she's not really concentrating that much. She's just kind of following the little red line and the voice prompts, which I'm sure we've all done. Yeah,
but you know,
on occasion.
You know, this is one of the things that Who can do so well, is take an everyday thing and make it scary. You know, we've all been there with you know, the sat nav where you follow the instructions and you've ended up somewhere and you're like, there's no road, or how do I get through here, or whatever. Fortunately, no one's ever driven into a river. Actually, well, maybe they have, you know, and survived. But you know,
I've seen a few lorries stuck in some very dodgy places.
Seen some
just following the
stuff,
sat nav.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's quite a good opening sequence, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good. It feels very relevant, doesn't it? It's something we can all relate to very quickly and understand the danger of it.
And even though, like now, you know, a lot of people use their phones for that sort of thing instead of an actual sat nav. You know, it kind of shows in some ways again how the sort of the style and the visual of the episode is dated a bit, but the themes
of its time.
But it's all still relevant, if not more so, really, in a way, because of how much we rely on technology.
Actually, you're probably right. Do you know what? Actually, thinking about it, I think I didn't actually get a sat-nav until 2008. Before then, I used to use a thing called a map.
A what?
Map, a big book with a map in it. I went out on with my map. I could go anywhere in the UK that I wanted with a map, and it wouldn't tell me anything. It wouldn't drive me into a river, that's for sure. Never once did I drive into a river just following my book of maps.
God, I used to have a map book in the car, but I had a sat-nav quite early, probably around this time, because I'd go around a lot for filming. And we'd go to places we wouldn't know. So I had a sat-nav, and then I remember, I think it was getting a bit old, so I bought a new one. And my wife and I once went to Scotland to surprise my mum in Inverness, and we
wow, that's a drive. That's a hell of a drive.
No, what we did was we flew to Edinburgh, spent a few days there, hired a car, but had taken our sat-nav with us. So we used it to drive from Edinburgh to Inverness.
Gotcha.
And then flew home. I got home and I thought, we were unpacking, and I thought, where's the sat-nav? Where's the brand new sat-nav that I spent 150 quid on?
Did you leave it?
Left it in the glove compartment of a hire car.
Oh, mate.
And,
no.
And then we contacted bearing in mind Inverness Airport's very small.
Yeah.
And we contacted the rental company, and they were like, "No, mate, no, we got no sat-navs been left here."
Is that what they talk like? They talk like that in Inverness today? Nice one, mate.
He was Cockney, sort of. And anyway, we ended up kind of making a bit of a fuss, and we were like, we don't really believe you. So they sent us a second one that had been in lost property. For they said we bin stuff after 6 months old.
150 quid.
No, it wasn't. So I ended up going back to I had a rubbish one again for a while, but at least I had one anyway. So completely off topic there.
Should have just had a book of maps.
Yeah, little sat-nav history for you, dear listeners.
$5.99 my book of maps cost me.
Yeah.
They covered everywhere in the UK, even the Channel Islands.
Except for new housing estates.
Yeah, apart from that. But then, to be fair, very few sat-navs covered those either. You go flying into a void, there'd be nothing.
Yeah, and the little arrow, your little car.
The little arrow's like going, where do I go?
Crazy, because it doesn't know where you are.
Trying to figure out, attach itself to a little road. It's amazing how these things have become kind of ingrained into our way of life. And even then, back in 2008, just bringing it back on topic, they absolutely were. They were everywhere. They were ubiquitous, I believe is the word. That's my word of the day. I'm going to try and squeeze it into the podcast as often as possible, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay, good challenge.
Yeah, I'm going to do that.
You can't just say it.
Spice things up a little bit.
You've got to work it into a sentence.
Yeah, it'll be natural. You'll never even notice.
Sorry, before people stop listening. So we have the title sequence, and we catch up with the Doctor and Donna, don't we? In
we
TARDIS,
do.
And he's teaching her to fly it, and she nearly puts a dent in the 80s, doesn't she?
She does,
which is quite good. And then he gets a phone call, which Donna and the audience are sort of a bit stunned at, because we didn't know that the Doctor had a phone, as far as I remember. And it's Martha, isn't it?
It is, yes.
Hang on, this is still pre-credits.
This is still pre-credits, because she ends with the line.
I'm bringing you back to Earth.
It's really fast, that music, isn't it?
It is.
I've forgotten how fast it was. Just blows at you.
Probably my favourite Murray Gold version of the theme, actually.
It's really good. It's really a cracker.
Yeah. So
it kind of builds each Tennant series, doesn't it? They just layer more onto it, more instruments, bigger orchestra, more percussion, all of that. And by series 4, it's just banging.
Yeah, literally.
Literally banging.
Yeah. So, we then come back to, we come to Earth, don't we? The TARDIS arrives. And,
we do. It lands in a little alleyway.
Yeah, there's a slightly awkward reunion with Martha and the Doctor, isn't there? Because obviously, they had their relationship, and she liked him and he didn't like her and blah blah blah. But it's sort of quickly moved past, isn't it? They have a hug and they're happy to see each other and it's all good.
Yeah.
And then Donna comes out and the doctor says don't start fighting, and then they started taking the mick out of him, much like
they turn on him, don't they? That's what
yeah,
came up.
Rose and Sarah Jane did that as well. So he says, "Oh, I'd rather you were fighting, actually." So it sort of gets that stuff out of the way quite quickly, and then the unit lot turn up, and my first note here is unit music is good. I quite like that sort of rock light LITE music.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I'll let you have that.
So yeah, quite like that. And then it all kind of kicks off, doesn't it? So they go into the gigantic black
the big lorry.
That is
strolls up, doesn't it? It's a nice shot, isn't it? Because the way the camera sort of builds the scale of units, which we haven't really seen since the 70s, or was it the 80s? I don't know, but we haven't really seen unit for decades, really, have we?
No, they weren't.
Because I think there was a mention of them in, was it World War III, the Slitheen thing?
Yeah.
No, and we'd seen the Valiant at the end of the previous series, but not really much of unit, if I remember.
No, that's
and this is the first. So this is really the first time we see full scale unit, probably since something like Seeds of Doom, something like that. Maybe
it's been a while, yeah.
Yeah, it has been a while, and even in Seeds of Doom, they only come in the last couple of episodes just to blow everything up. So before that, it was probably Invasion of the Dinosaurs, John Pertwee, or something like that.
Well, one of my notes here is nice
proper
callbacks.
Unit story.
Yeah, nice callbacks to the Third Doctor's era, because the commander says you're still on. What was he saying?
Still on the payroll or something.
That's it. Yeah. There's a few
and
references
Donna's like,
there.
You used to work for them. It's like, 70s or 80s. That whole unit dating conundrum, which has never been solved and never will be, because it's just the way it is.
Yeah, exactly.
It's one of those things Doctor Who has to carry with it for eternity.
So we end up inside the unit van, which was a bit TARDIS-like, actually. I thought
it was very much bigger on the inside, wasn't it?
Much bigger inside, yeah.
I don't care.
But
it's a lot of fun.
So we find out about a load of worldwide deaths that have been happening in cars with Atmos systems. And so
who's that guy's? What was he? General, the brigadier replacement. Was he? Mace, General Mace. That's him.
Yes,
I knew
possibly.
It comes to me.
Yeah.
I'm getting old, mate. It's very difficult to recall names these days.
Remember his name, no. So
anyway, go on, Susan. All yours.
Yeah. So they need to investigate the Atmos deaths, don't they?
It's the law. Yes, they do.
We find out about all the Atmos deaths that have been happening around the world. And at this point, the Doctor isn't really impressed with the very militaristic new unit, is he?
No.
What did you think of all that? Well, he doesn't like being given a salute, but then Donna wants a salute, I suppose, because of...
You're going to salute me as well, are you? And they do.
I
think she was doing it just for a laugh, though.
Yeah, I want because Wilf salutes, doesn't he?
He does.
Points, so
but he does it with meaning and feeling.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it was weird because it's quite a good action episode. This one, some good kind of TV shootout stuff, and I like the Sontaran blast that goes around a corner, which you get in the next episode. That was quite fun. But yeah, it was. I felt a bit like, I'm presuming it's kind of anti-military. Which is understandable, but then at the same time you've got all these people firing guns and stuff. But I suppose how do you do something like this and be anti-military at the same time? Do you know what I mean? You've got to show it, So
do you mean like the story itself is anti-military? Is that what you mean?
Well, in the characters, the Doctor doesn't like it, does he? And
no, I think the Doctor always takes a sort of anti-militaristic stance, doesn't he? Even when he was on their payroll.
Yeah, and they sort of not look down at Martha, but there's a hint that you're a soldier now, and oh God, this is what happens.
I mean, Donna raises that, doesn't she? Yeah. She says, "Is that what happens to them, Doctor, or is that what you turn them into, soldiers?"
Yeah,
and he's not too impressed by that flash of insight.
because Davros references that later on in the series, doesn't he? Which always remember the reaction from Tennant to that is, so well done. He's guilt and shame and embarrassment. It's quite interesting.
You see a foreshadowing of it here, don't you? Because he knows that Donna's right. Actually, Martha has become, if not a soldier, she's attached herself to a sort of military organisation.
Yeah.
And but then Martha makes the point, and the point she makes is brilliant because it's exactly the Doctor's stance when he became John Pertwee all them years ago, which is that he can change things, or she can change things from the inside if she's a part of it. From the outside in, it's a lot more difficult, but from the inside out, it's a bit easier to affect the changes.
Yeah,
but Earth is under threat. There's no two way about it. There is a very skilled military force amassing in skies above.
Yes, there is. Yeah,
and they're short, and they're brutal, and they're fierce.
Yeah, and they look like baked potatoes.
You've got to feel for the Sontarans, haven't you? They've never been able to shrug that off ever since Lynx in the Time Warrior. Unpopped the clasps on his two-piece helmet and slid it off. The whole baked potato thing has followed them through time and space, through the decades. It's never going to go away.
Unfairly. Well, we'll talk a bit more about them shortly. So,
yes.
At this point, they've done a raid, haven't they, on the Atmos facility?
Unit have, yes.
Yeah, Unit have, yeah. And which is where the truck is, and they're sort of in trying to investigate, what's been going on, and the staff are all acting very strange there, aren't they? Which is where Donna comes into play, isn't it? Because she uses her fastest temp in Chiswick skills.
That's right. Yeah, she goes looking for the paperwork, doesn't she? And says, if you want to know what's really going on in the company, start with HR.
Yeah, and I thought, it's probably quite true, really. And she finds the sickness folder, and it's empty.
Nobody's taken a day off sick, ever.
So that was quite good. So we join two soldiers, don't we, who are exploring the lower corridors of the factory. And there's two.
That's right. Yeah,
two gormless. Yeah, two gormless likely lads guarding a door, and they sort of burst their way in, don't we? I made a note here. Let me just bring it up. It's nice lighting in the clone room. There's sort of purple and green.
Is, actually.
And there was genuinely some really good stuff in it that kind of was pushing it a bit more.
Really good photography.
Than the usual stuff of this time on telly. So I particularly liked all that. I thought the clone bit was gross, and sort of a little bit of body horror, and the sort of
it was pretty nasty, wasn't it? With his
cord
face all
in,
kind of
and the cord in the back of the head was a bit matrixy, when they're in the battery things that they have in there, and they're all plugged in. Sontaran first appears here, doesn't it? And we don't see its face or anything, do we? So the two soldiers investigate this room, and they find a clone, don't they? But it's all sort of pale and milky looking. You don't really know what it is at that point.
They find the door when they're sort of investigating the lower levels of the factory, don't they? And it's guarded by two people who won't let them through. So they take it upon themselves to kind of bully their way through. But they've been overseen by the main Sontaran commander general. I forget his name.
Yes, General Stahl. Yeah,
General Stahl. That's it. And he says, "Let them through." Because he wants to. He says, "Okay, let them through," and they come through. And he wants a bit of sport or something. They come in. They find the clone room, and it's all stinky. Oh, it stinks in here, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And they open it, and there's like a noise from inside this massive tank, and then it gets really, really creepy and alien-like, and then they sort of open it, and you're expecting something horrible, but then it's just a pool of green milky fluid, and they're like, "Oh, look, it's just a pool of green milky fluid," and then his head goes, "Rah!" and it's the clone thing, and they're like, "Ah!" and the head's like thrashing around all bloody, and we're like, "Ah!" and the guy's like, "Ah!" and then it's just nasty from then onwards.
I was so confused. I thought I was watching it then.
Yeah, I know. See, I just recreate stuff brilliantly.
Yeah.
It's one of my skills.
So after all the shouting and scares, there's a teleportation beam and a Sontaran appears in the room.
There is. Well done.
Yeah, and the soldiers take the mick out of him for his height and things, and then he kneecaps them with his blaster.
Oh,
and stuff. Yeah. And then you find out that they can't fire their guns because of the copper excitation or something.
Yeah, that's something
which is quite good. And he identifies himself as General Style, and. We do see his face at this point, don't we? He takes the helmet off.
That's right, because that's when they call him Potato.
That's it, yeah. It's quite
and they sort of laugh at him again because he's short and looks mildly comical and unthreatening.
Yeah, and it's quite a slow reveal, isn't it, as he takes it off and the camera moves around. It's nicely done.
Yeah, it's brilliantly done, actually.
Yeah, and I remember seeing them. I think they were on the cover of DWM or something back.
They might be. I think they were around, weren't they?
I thought they looked really cool, and it was nice design. But I say I thought because I'm going to be honest, they still look good, but the flux design was
better, isn't it?
Superior in the armor, and also their ship looked better in it. It was obviously.
It'd been upgraded a bit, the ship.
TV production stuff has moved on a bit, and it wasn't just kind of purple squares hanging in a black studio. They look good for the time. I thought.
Yeah, they did. I remember it at the time actually, and I've never been a big fan of the blue suit at all. I hated it when it first came out. I thought, cry out loud. What have they done to the Sontarans? They look stupid. I mean, they've always looked a little bit comical anyway, but I thought I just thought the foam blue, I just didn't like it. But I kind of went with it. And but the actual prosthetic itself, the face, it looks brilliant. It looks so believable. The way it's kind of melded into. What's his name? I just keep thinking of him. It's Christopher Ryan, isn't it? Mike from the Young Ones,
and
who was in. And Dan Starkey.
That's it. Dan Starkey plays the right hand one. He was Strax and
but the prosthetics is good. I wasn't so keen on the uniforms, but to be honest, it doesn't really matter because they sell it so well. And Christopher Ryan sells it so well. He's absolutely 100% believable in that. He really is. He's astonishing. As good as he was as what was he in? He was in Mind Warp, a Colin Baker story, Trial of the Time Lord. Lord Kiv, that's him. A similar kind of thing. He was a slug sort of creature, and he had a face all full of prosthetics, and he surprised everyone there as well because, again, for a generation, he was Mike from the Young Ones, a narcic comedy show. And then suddenly he was a Doctor Who monster and we were laughing like, oh, that's going to be ridiculous. But he was brilliant in that. And it was just, if not more brilliant in this. So kudos to Christopher Ryan.
That precedes the... I think I might have talked about this on the podcast before, but, when they cast...
Better just check his name, actually. Yes, Christopher Ryan.
Is, that precedes later stuff in Who. When they cast Catherine Tate, I was a bit like, not sure about this, and I was proven wrong. And then they cast Matt Lucas, and I thought, not sure about this. And then he was really good. And then they cast John Bishop, and I thought, not sure about this. And I don't know why I thought, because by that point, really, I should have just trusted them.
You should just trust them to know what they're doing.
And they did a great job. So at this point. We join the Doctor, and he's going off with Ross, Private Ross, isn't he?
Oh, that's right. Go and visit we like Ross.
Luke Rattigan, and there's quite a good bit that such a bad dad joke, but they're talking about the Atmos, and Ross says, "Oh, these things they drive me around the bend," and then it cuts to a wide shot as their Jeep turns round a corner, and the Doctor says, "Oh, you timed that well, didn't you?" or something like that, and that always makes me chuckle. Thought it was quite good,
The old ones are always the best, aren't they?
The old ones, yeah. So we then get a little bit with Donna and Martha, don't we? Where Martha. It kind of sets up some stuff that comes later. So Martha tells Donna how she didn't tell her family about her involvement with the Doctor.
Yeah, that's right.
That led to their sort of capture by the Master, and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, she says they're kind of imprisoned, tortured, etc., etc. So Donna thinks, "Ooh, crikey!"
Yeah, and it obviously panics her a little bit, and a panic, and then she says that it's quite nicely played. She wants to go, and he thinks that she wants to leave permanently, doesn't she?
So funny. And he comes out with one of his resounding speeches, and she's just staring at him brilliantly. Catherine takes an expression on that while she just lets him just roll as much rope around his neck as he likes, and she's just feeding it to him with her eyes. And he does it.
Big fat space Dumbo.
Yeah, and he goes, and you're just going home. You're just nipping home for a bit, aren't you? Yeah. You stupid spaceman or something.
Yeah,
whatever
something like that.
It's brilliant.
Yeah,
it's classic. And it's quite nice because I think also this is the series kind of slightly taking a piss out of itself a little bit, because Tennant, or Dr. Ten, I'm calling the Doctor's done this. He's done it quite a few times, come out with something really epic when he's saying goodbye to someone, or I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, that thing that he does quite a lot of, and the music is always kind of swelling up around him, and the emotion, there's probably flames going off in the background, usually that sort of stuff, and they kind of play on it here. And obviously it turns out the way it does, because it's too good a joke not to play out. And they do it brilliantly. But I love the fact that it is actually the show sort of being a little bit irreverent with its own material. I think that's great. It's a nice dynamic. It all been getting a little bit po-faced in the previous series, I thought, and maybe even at the start of this one. I think, which kind of illustrates why Donna was just the perfect character to bring in at this point. Yeah, because she just brings that element of it. She is there almost to poke fun at it, really. Yeah, isn't she?
Yeah, the companion is often the the audience's window into the adventure, and Donna really works so well.
She does, yeah. She's like a pin in a balloon. She'll keep pricking that balloon and just watching it explode into a guff of hot air, as indeed the Doctor does here.
Yeah. So we do see Donna go back home, don't we, in Chiswick, and Bernard turns up, and
it's a beautiful moment. He's at the end of the end of the street, isn't it, on the street corner, and she's kind of walking up towards him. They spy each other from some distance. Yeah, and he's like, both hands sort of do that thing that he does with both hands, and with his face and his head, and everyone's trying to. Suddenly, everyone feels really emotional, and it's like, oh my god! And Donna starts with a tear down her eye, and she's like, "Oh, it's my granddad," and you feel the bond between them.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing right through every episode that these two are in,
because so much of it is powered by Bernard and Catherine and what they've got together.
And it's the performance, isn't it? It's their eyes and how they look, and the sort of teariness of it, and
because
the emotion in the voice.
On paper, that's just she runs down the street to
flat.
it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that's it's in the direction and the meaning behind it all and everything, and they just make so much of that. I think Wilf kind of lives vicariously through Donna a bit. He thinks that the Doctor's
definitely,
because he's, as we've seen previously, he's got an interest in space and everything, and he wants to. To
encourages her, doesn't he?
He does.
To go off there
to go
and live her life.
Yeah, do more than she's been doing at home, and which is sort of the ultimate tragedy of Donna at the end is so heartbreaking because
I don't even want to think about that because it sucks big times. The biggest letdown of this particular series of Doctor Who ever. But let's not go there because that's not what we're talking about. And I'll only get angry.
So Sylvia then turns up.
Yes.
Now, I'm going to be honest.
Sylvie, Donna's mum. She's a bit of a dragon. Kind of archetypal, dragon, really, isn't she?
She's
very little character, and
she's supposed to be unlikable, but God, she didn't off berate Donna and Wilf all the time, and has got nothing positive to say and nothing stuff is happening in front of her, and she doesn't accept that it's real, and she's just hard work. I mean, Jackie was sort of bolshy, but in a sort of she's all right way. Do you know what I mean?
I found Jackie was a lot more endearing as a character, wasn't she? She had an acerbic side. She could put people down as much as just look at them, and she could hold her own. And you can see kind of where Rose inherited her feistiness, fiery nature from. Sylvie's also got a fiery nature, but it feels more toxic than a lot more so than Jackie did, and it's a lot more shallow, I think, in this story at least. Anyway, to be fair, I think Sylvie shines in Turn Left, and that's when we see everything that she is kind of put under the test. The same for all the characters in that one. Yeah, really,
and that's deliberate to then sort of develop her. But I remember just thinking, gosh, she's just awful, and she's awful. Yeah,
she's awful. She is, isn't she? You wonder how she ended up being Wilf's daughter. Really, given that he's such a lovely old fella, how is she his daughter? And it's quite nice, and you can kind of see it in Bernard's performance again. He's very sort of he puts up with Sylvie. And he'll let her order him around. He'll give her some jip every now and then, and he'll seal up the doors and the windows and do the kind of man's work, so to speak, and all that sort of stuff. And she'll have him doing it, and he'll let her order him around. But she's still his daughter. You get the feeling his heart's still there. He still looks out for her.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. And I'd like to think that a lot of her attitude is she wants the best for Donna, but perhaps doesn't know how to articulate it properly.
I think that's very generous of you, mate. I'm not sure I got that at all, but not from this episode anyway.
She's just horrible. She's just awful.
She is pretty nasty. I think she feels let down, perhaps in her own life, and sees Donna making the same mistakes that she did, but doesn't have the vocabulary to support her. So that's kind of where Wilf, the granddad, steps in, but he sees something in Donna that perhaps her mum never did, and maybe he's encouraging her to take a different path than the one her mum would like to see her go down. So her mum's, maybe made all these mistakes and everything else. She sees Donna doing the same sort of thing, but doesn't imagine for a second that the road Donna could take could possibly lead to anywhere. As it turns out, it's certainly not in the stars and saving planets and changing civilizations and that sort of stuff. It's just maybe taking a better job with a better pay and finding mixed with a better bunch of people, finding a better man for a husband. This kind of standard stuff, really.
Yeah.
Whereas Wilf sees, he knows there's more to life than just that, and I love that. I love this series for that, and what he brings to it, what he kind of represents, or what his words seem to bring forth. The pictures and images that he puts in Donna's brain, and she just runs with it. She sees the opportunity, and she's not afraid because Wilf's encouraging her to go for it. I love it. I think it's great.
Yeah, it is lovely with them. Yeah. So. We've also, by this point, seen Martha be taken away to be cloned, haven't we?
Yes. She goes down to have a little snoop around, doesn't she? And comes a bit. Yeah,
the soldiers take her down there and say, "Oh, we found." something.
They come for her, don't they? Yeah, you better come with us.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh, the general's there. He wants to have a word with her or something.
That's it.
He's
Yeah.
down here and
they trick her.
Lo and behold.
And then the Doctor and Ross go to see Luke Rattigan, don't they? And then
they do. Yes, the boy genius himself.
Yeah, we'll talk about him in just a second. But there's a teleport cube thing. Which gets the Doctor up onto the ship, isn't it?
Sontaran ship.
Talks them. Yeah. So, what did you think of Rattigan?
I don't know. It's right. So he reminded me very much of the dude in Dalek. What's his name? Van Staten.
Yeah.
There's that, doesn't it? And I I don't know. I've got really mixed feelings. When I first watched this, I absolutely hated him. I thought he was an annoying git and was just very two-dimensional. It's just like standard kind of hateful rich kid genius that this era seems to despise, I think.
Yeah.
You know, these genius types are never represented brilliantly throughout Doctor Who. I don't think, and perhaps even less so during this particular era. I don't know, and I get annoyed by that actually. You know, I'm not massively happy with it because, you know, genius should always be encouraged, but it should be directed towards better things. And I think actually Rattigan's little personal story does paint a more positive picture towards the end, but certainly in the early stages he's treated as a little bit of a kind of joke, I think, by the writers of this.
He's a little bit unpleasant, full of himself. He knows that he's clever, which is never a particularly nice trait. But there's some interesting parallels between him and the Doctor. I thought that, well, Rattigan says that, at one point,
maybe I'd have thought of that before.
He says, "Oh, I'm lonely, and it's difficult when you're clever, and don't have any friends." And the Doctor says exactly the same thing.
Good point, well made.
To Mace, I think I get lonely. He says, but the Doctor is the sort of positive example of it, and going out to find friends, and people like Donna who will, quote unquote, save you and look after you and stuff, whereas Rattigan is an example of someone who's gone off the rails with it all. And
interesting, given what happens to the 10th Doctor later on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
without the influence of Donna to kind of show him why he does what he does.
Yes, yeah. So I he's a deliberately unlikable character.
But I find it a bit heavy-handed, though. It's like, how can we make him seem as unlikable as possible?
Yeah.
And it's same sort of thing with Van Stanton. He fires somebody, casts them out on the street, and now we literally see Rattigan doing the very same thing at the start of this episode.
Yeah.
Casting somebody out. I don't care. Go and tell the newspapers, and actually they end up getting killed anyway, and he's quite happy by that. So I mean, again, it's all broad brushstrokes, but I take your point, actually. I think that's a good one. I hadn't thought about that, those sort of parallels, or the kind of mirror held up to the Doctor. So the Doctor could be like this if he didn't have the right sort of influences or something. Maybe
it's not overly heavy in the episode. It's just a couple of lines, but I was like, okay, I can see the
that's good. Good point.
Intention here. Yeah. So the Doctor goes up to the ship, doesn't he? Has a bit of a chat with the Sontarans and Commander Starr.
Yeah.
References the last great time war, and they've been a bit upset that they weren't allowed to get involved in that fight. And clearly they just
patient Sontarans.
Yeah, they just like to fight.
Mega universal apocalyptic event coming up in a few years' time.
They finally got it, yeah.
So
the Doctor goes back down, doesn't he? And he escapes with Ross, and they get in their little van. Now I love this bit, and they're driving off, and the Atmos is counting down. It's going to blow up, take them into the river. And they jump out and they run off, and it's really dramatic. And it just goes, and like two sparks come out,
which I think is classic.
Yeah, it's brilliant. Just. Take it, like you're saying, taking the mick out of it, just downplaying it. And he says, I was expecting a bit more than that or something. He's quite disappointed by it. So I thought that was really good.
It was very good. Yeah, I like that.
They realise that the gas is poisonous and that the cars are essentially weapons that are going to...
That's right, it all starts kicking off, doesn't it?
Yeah, gas the planet, allow the Sontarans to use it as a giant clone factory, because that's how they do it all. So the Doctor goes back to find Donna, doesn't he? And he's reunited with Wilf for the first time.
That's right. Who recognises him from
the Voyage of the Damned. Yeah.
Voyage of the Damned.
So Bernard was cast in that episode just as shop
sort of news
agent guy,
kiosk vendor, or whatever it was.
And then he became Wilf, Donna's grandpa, because the original actor who was cast in the role, he passed away, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right.
And I can't remember if they'd shot something or what.
They shot a few scenes with him, and they had to remount them with Bernard Cribbins.
Yeah, so terrible, tragedy there, but obviously it kind of worked out very nicely, in narrative to bring Bernard back like that. So it's quite quickly and nicely addressed that they sort of vaguely knew each other and things, and I think that helps add more weight to Will saying to Donna, go with him and things, because he's kind of had a little bit of experience with him and stuff, so it all kicks off at the end, doesn't it? And one of my notes is that there's a really good cliffhanger, because Will's trapped in the car, the gas is going everywhere, it's all over the place. It's quite epic, and it's quite nicely shot as well. Well, I say it's epic. It is on paper, but you're not really seeing it on screen. There's a news report, isn't there? And it says, references a couple of places worldwide. And you don't see it, but it's budget, and it's okay. So epic in the sense that it's a global event, and all these billions of cars across the world are all chucking up this toxic gas into the atmosphere. Yeah, that's true. I'll tell you what I dislike about it. I like the storyboard of events. I think that's all fine. It's perfect, but it reminded me very much of the cliffhanger to the first Slitheen episode, which was the new series' first real proper cliffhanger, and they made a meal of it because it just seemed to drag on for years. And I think this one does a bit as well, to be honest. It's like, we get Will's trapped in the car. There's toxic gas kicking off everywhere. There's the doctor trying to undo it, but he can't. And it's like, right, cut there then, do it. But we don't. We get the same shots or similar things from different angles taken. So again, we get Wilf trapped in the car. The doctor's under the car. He doesn't know what to do. He's running up and down the street. Donna's screaming her head off. And then we get Wilf trapped in the car. The doctor's running up and down the street. And then in between all that, we get these news, or is it in the lead up to it? We get all these plumbing news stories, newscasters, right? So we get like BBC News, then we get an American one to kind of show the scale of it, and it's almost like a kind of you see this a lot again in this era of Doctor Who stories, and it did not wind me up back in the day, because it's like, I get the message, I get it, you don't have to ladle it onto me again and again and again. And they would do the same shot, right? And I noticed it in this, and I found the old kind of anger sort of kicking back in, right? I'm much more relaxed about it now, but it was still, the echoes of it were still there. And it's like, we see the news footage, right? And reports are coming in, blah, 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 blah. And then the camera zooms into the screen, right? And it goes close to the face of the newsreader. And then it zooms in closer, right? So you can see the individual little pixels. And then it zooms in again. So it's just their mouth talking, saying the words. And you can see all the little red, green, blue. It's like, and okay, you do that once, that's fine. They do it again. 3 times they did it towards the end of that episode, and it's just, come on guys, we get it, we understand. So I know I'm getting a bit heated up again now. I don't feel angry by it anymore. As I said, I'm laid back, but I remember at the time, fuck me, did it wind me up, honestly. I'm not kidding. It's just, cut the show. But I did think that it was a bit laboured towards the end. And now you say that, I did remember sort of thinking when I watched it, I was like, God, this does go on a bit, doesn't it? This cliffhanger.
But that's not a writing thing. And that's a production thing.
Probably,
they want to get the shots in, and they want to kind of, you do it in the edit, don't you? That sort of thing, really. So in the edit, they decided that they want to get this angle in, get that one in, ratchet it up a little bit more, do this, do that. So that's where that would have been created.
And possibly the episode came in a little bit short, and they needed to take it
very possibly.
From a cliffhanger to a cliffhanger.
But it's a minor thing, really. Yeah, it does end in a good place.
Yeah, and I've got my note here that says it's simply but nicely resolved, with Sylvia doing something worthwhile.
It's brilliantly resolved. I love it. It's one of the best resolutions to a cliffhanger
when I was
in the history
watching
of cliffhangers.
I was thinking, just smash the window, problem solved, go and find the bricks, smash the window.
Yeah,
and I was sort of thinking, why aren't they? And then she came in and did it in the next episode. I was like, yeah, good, I liked that.
See, Jackie would have done that as well, right? You can just imagine her coming out with a great big axe.
Probably a brick or something for her. She'd have done the same. Yeah,
because everybody has an axe in their house. But I love the point where they kind of make a joke. Well, where'd you get the axe? Why have you got an axe?
Yeah,
you know? And then it's just quickly forgotten about. You know? It doesn't really matter. We just need something to break the window. Sylvie's got an axe. She smashes it, and job's done.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah,
maybe in the current era, if that was done, then people would be kicking off about it. But back then, it's just jolly japes.
Yeah, it's just fine. Yeah, so we resolve all of that, and Sylvia moans a bit and doesn't want Donna to leave again with the doctor, but they go back to the Atmos factory, don't they? And Wilf is cheering them all on, and at this point, Donna is put into the TARDIS to keep her safe. Oh,
that's right. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, she's told to go into the TARDIS and lock the doors or something.
Yeah. And then we see the Doctor talking to the Sontarans, and they've got that sort of weird like projection camera thing where they've got like a holographic screen in the Sontaran ship, and it's got the Doctor talking on it. This is probably my camera brain, but I was like, I don't think he's even the right way round based on the way the camera will be looking at him. Where's the camera?
Oh,
How is it working? Why is there no background behind him? He's sitting down now. How's it done? And I was like,
I'll tell you what, though, you're not the only one to pick those things out, right? Because I noticed something in the first episode of this right early on when they're in the back of the van, and it's when Martha's on the computer doing stuff, and there's is it Clone Martha, and she's transferring data from one thing to another, and their little logo comes up, data transfer or data transferring, and I looked at it just very briefly. It's only on like half a second. I thought, oh, that don't look right. So I rewound it and paused it, and I said to Freya, look, I knew it. And she goes, they haven't spelled it properly. Transferring.
Oh, no.
They misspell it.
Oh, really?
I noticed things like that, mate. Yeah,
that's interesting. Well, I noticed they'd I think it was in this episode, the Sontarans are climbing some steps and then walking down a corridor, and to make the invasion look bigger, they flopped the shots, so you see them again flipped around. Why they couldn't have just shot like them walking down the stairs instead of up, but maybe they just didn't have
make it easy on themselves. Instead of
difficult. Just double it up. Walk up there, guys, and come back down. 2 shots done.
But it's like cycling Daleks round through a door. You get them through the shot, they go round behind the camera, they come out again. So it's like there's an endless stream of Daleks or something. I love that. I mean that element of sort of improvisation and how do we make an army out of 4 people, 4 actors? That's an essential part of Doctor Who, and how they've addressed that in every era has been a lot of fun.
Well, that's why you only ever see 1 or 2 without their masks on, isn't it?
Exactly.
The cost of it, So talking of Martha's tech, I never quite got why she had like her little mobile phone that had access to the nuclear
That's brilliant.
launch.
Yeah, you don't worry about things like that, mate. That's just crack on with it.
And it was just like, do you want to blow stuff up?
It doesn't matter.
Yes or no? She's like, no. So I thought that was a bit funny, but yeah.
It was, but they don't really want nuclear weapons launched, do they? Because it'll, I don't know, actually, because they won't scratch. The Doctor makes the point they won't even make a dent on the Sontaran spaceship.
That's right. So Unit want to nuke them, and he says it won't do anything. But
so
then,
why does Martha Clone Martha keep aborting the launch?
Well, I suppose she's doing it to save the Sontarans, just in case, isn't she?
Just in case
they launch them and they dent the ship.
Dents. It makes a nasty scratch on the window.
Also, I must say,
we're kind of reaching a bit, I think, but it doesn't matter.
Maybe.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't really matter. Just gloss over it. It's fine. It's fine.
I must say, I thought the design and the CG on the Sontaran ship was really cool, but it's a little bit less impressive when there's only one of them with 2 little ball things flying around.
Yeah. I know, but like it's, budget again, isn't it? It's always been the bane of Doctor, and it is interesting because obviously since then, and we saw them quite recently in Flux.
Well, it shows you how far
look amazing.
They look amazing. It shows you how far CG stuff has come on, both in terms of the look, the quality, and the cost.
Yeah, we take all that stuff for granted now, don't we? Things
you
have to look that realistic now for us to even take them seriously, because as soon as the texture's not there or the rendering isn't quite right, then we notice it, we pick it up, and it's like, it's rubbish, CGI and it sucks.
Yeah, but at the time, probably a lot of people weren't even watching it. Well, it wasn't even in HD, was it, actually?
No, it wasn't, because I watched it on iPlayer, and it wasn't, it definitely wasn't on HD. No, but of course I'm watching it now on a blooming massive 55-inch screen.
Shows up more
all
flaws,
these things,
doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It's possibly been upscaled, because there is a Blu-ray release,
there is a Blu-ray,
but apparently it doesn't look
I have
great.
not invested.
No, I didn't either. But it doesn't look great, I don't think.
I do have DVDs of it somewhere.
Yeah, I've got them all on DVD, and I watched this through iPlayer on Sky. But yeah,
that's even compressed even further then.
Well, yeah, probably, yeah. So we see Donna in the TARDIS, don't we? And the Doctor has blatantly talked to her.
I love this sequence, Jeff. It is brilliant.
So it's so good here. So we get a quick Rose cameo, don't we? She flashes up on the
that's
screen.
right. Yeah, we do.
And God, just jumping back a little bit to Partners in Crime. So as you know, and our listeners might know, you and I have both been fans of the Secrets of the Chibnall era. And I do remember a couple of them in this series of Tennants. So when Rose turned up in the Partners in Crime episode and randomly drops keys in a bin or whatever it is, I remember sitting watching it with friends and going, oh my God, nobody knew. I mean, obviously the internet was different back then, but you still kind of knew a bit about what was going on, and
there was still a lot of rumours flying around, and there was still a sort of core Doctor Who online fandom that used to do stuff. Apparently, I wasn't really involved in it.
I did a bit of Gallifrey base back then and stuff. But they kept it all secret, and then obviously you got the flashes throughout the series and things, and then I remember Tennant's fake regeneration, just like for a whole week being like, oh my God, is that it?
It was a bit
so,
mind-blowing, wasn't it?
It really was, and they managed to keep it secret, and
they did.
Kudos to them. So the little Rose cameo was nice, and this bit with Donna where the Doctor, she's sort of inadvertently been put in a position where her life is in danger, and she's got to do something that will save people for the greater good, and she doesn't think she can do it, which is kind of her own
I love that
insecurities, and the Doctor knows that she can do it, and she does, and the hitting the Sontaran on the back of the neck was just so brilliant. I loved it.
It's always good doing that.
Yeah. So, and just shows that you can see Donna, growing and her confidence evolving throughout the series. And again, which is why her end is so sad.
I told you not to talk about that.
Yeah, I didn't. You've made
the
up.
Rage starts. I start seeing red when you
Paul's,
talk about
Paul's going red. Yeah.
And it's not just the heat.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit. We'll talk a bit more about Wilf shortly. So basically, the poison gas is enveloping the planet, isn't it? And they work out some mumbo jumbo about setting it on fire to save everything. I can't remember the exact reason why, but
because it had to be done. Just burn it all off. And everyone's fine. Hooray!
It's quite a spectacular sequence, and there's a nice shot.
It does look good.
They blast it up, and I've seen people online talk about, well, what about the planes in the sky and all the people that died? And you think,
that's overthinking it.
Yeah, you just kind of
don't worry about it. It's just
got to let it go a little bit. Yeah, but then watching it now, what was interesting is that then the Doctor is going to teleport himself onto their ship with this flamethrower thing, sacrifice himself.
He's all up for it, isn't he?
he's all up
He's
for it.
He's fully prepared to do that. Yeah,
he's done it a few times. Yeah, he will, and I think all incarnations of themselves have done it.
They've all done it at some point, at least twice.
So he's going to go and burn them, and they don't want him to go, and I thought it was quite interesting that he's just prepared to go and set fire to a load of aliens to stop them.
Well, he wants to give them the choice, doesn't he? He wants to give them a chance.
He does want to give them the choice
and think about what they're doing. But he knows they're not going to do it.
He knows they're not going to, and he's desperately saying, last chance, and they're having none of it, and they're just having their, frat party Sontar-ha.
Honestly, the Sontarans in this as little characters are fantastic. I think it's one of the best depictions of Sontarans in the whole of Doctor Who, and I don't say that lightly, because when I was a kid, the Sontarans had a kind of sort of legendary sort of status for me. I'd never really seen them. I had kind of very fragmented memories of watching the Sontaran experiment, which is quite nasty when you're a kid watching that, because it's just basically about torturing people to see what happens when you put them under stress. And then the invasion of time, where they're not in it very much and they're running through a disused hospital shooting the Doctor. But the fact they'd invaded the Doctor's own TARDIS kind of showed that they were really powerful people. Yeah. And so when I sort of grew up a bit older, I used to write fanfic in the back of my school exercise books about Sontarans. I loved them, and I'd read also Ian Marter's target novelisation of the Sontaran experiment, which is brutal, even more so, right, than the TV series, because Ian Marter wrote very hardcore body horror Doctor Who stories that were for adults. They weren't meant for kids, as far as I'm concerned, right? They're nasty. So, but they're good because of that, right? Don't get me wrong, I love them, right? So the Sontarans had this kind of really weird mythical state. So the first time I'd really seen them was in the Two Doctors, which was the last time they'd appeared in the show before this thing. And I can't even begin to tell you the sort of feeling of utter despair I had, or the power of being let down so much by a legendary Doctor Who monster, and then just watching them just be ridiculed within the show that they were a part of, and they just weren't anything like what I thought they were going to be. When the ship's first identified in part one of the Two Doctors as a Sontaran battlecruiser or something, I was over the moon. I was so excited. I honestly couldn't believe that I was going to see Sontarans next week in Doctor Who, and it was awful. And then for this one, when they're coming back and they're wearing that stupid blue outfit, which I didn't like, I just thought they're going to be awful again. Why can't we just have good Sontarans? Why can't they be, as Ray Holman put them, he said, dirty, brutal Sontarans or something like that, right? Yeah. And they were in his bloody foam things. But that aside, the characterization, the new thing, this new battle cry, Sontar-ha, Sontar-ha, they suddenly seem to have a kind of validity and a credibility about them. And that end speech that General Stahl puts in front of the Doctor, where he calls the Doctor out, come on then, do it! And the Doctor can't do it, and he wants to do it, but he doesn't want to do it because he can't. He can't just do what he does right at that point. And the Sontaran, they know that, and they're goading him, they're pushing him. And for the first time, this is the third time I've watched this episode, and it's the first time I really felt the power of that confrontation at the end. I thought it was brilliant. Yeah, it was really good. And then, of course, Rattigan does the body swap thing, doesn't he? Yeah. And the General flops because he knows that whilst the Doctor wouldn't have done what he did, this guy certainly will, because he's got a score to settle. And Sontar-ha, he says. Yeah. Which is quite a good little... Yeah, it's brilliant. I love it, honestly. It's so good. There's a nice tidiness to the logic in the story. It's never been my favourite Doctor Who story, and the first time I watched it I wasn't that impressed. The second time I watched it I didn't think I was that impressed, but somehow this time, third time lucky, I watched it and I absolutely loved it. I loved all of it, I apart from the blue uniforms, but I was able to get past it. And okay, a few little niggles about certain things, but on the whole, that's that's what Doctor Who is. It's rarely ever perfect, and if it is perfect, it's only a certain number of people's idea of perfect. My mum will always find something wrong with Doctor Who because that's just who she is. Any one of us could find all sorts of things wrong with any episode we like and tear it to pieces. And I've done that on occasion. And this story, as I said, hasn't been my favourite one. But, yeah, I really enjoyed it this time round.
Yeah,
and
I really enjoyed it as well.
At the end.
Yeah, I've always liked it. And, had a great time rewatching it. Saw some stuff, that I hadn't kind of noticed before. Saw how TV production and effects and stuff have changed in those last 15 years, which I find quite interesting. So yeah, it's great. I really enjoyed it.
And Freya watched it with me as well, actually, and she said she enjoyed it because she's seen it once before when she started watching them. We went back and she wasn't massively impressed with this first time round, but both of us were watching this and really actually enjoying it.
Good.
Because he just got carried along with the story and just went with it, and it was a lot of fun, I have to say. It's like you said, Jeff, it's got a lot of action. Unit, I don't think it reminded me, and I said this to Freya as well, being all knowledgeable and stuff. It's like the old Havoc days of the Pertwee era. Ambassadors of Death and the Mind of Evil, all of that stuff, and it was brilliant. They really went to some degree of effort to pull out some stops and show us Unit mobilising as a force. And okay, they changed the name from, United Nations Intelligence Task Force to Unified, but I don't think that was a decision. I think that was a decision they had to make. I was sort of reading up on it, and it was like the United Nations apparently requested it of them, or somebody from the UN did, and they didn't want to be sort of confused with an alien task force type thing, so they change, but it still works. You can get over it. It's all fine. But really enjoyed it, Jeff, and it's got a lot of heart as well. That's where I was going with this. It's got a lot of action. It's got some really nice character stuff. Martha comes back, and we see a kind of progression of her as well. We see Donna and the Doctor's relationship developing. She sees a side of him that she never knew he had. This whole kind of militaristic history, and she knows obviously he's not about to sort of pick up a weapon and start firing it alongside the unit soldiers, but she's seen what he's capable of and knows that it's always just a hair's breadth away. And she sort of sees him as maybe she thinks at that point she is a bit of a caretaker for the Doctor.
Yes,
she's already saved some people. She forced him to save some people in the fires of Pompeii, which was that just before this one? I think it might have been, mightn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah, absolutely.
So they've just come out of that into this, and and you can see Donna's kind of journey. It's sort of, Planet of the Ood was just before this.
Yes, and then Pompeii,
the whole slavery thing, and sort of connection with the Ood, the Song of the Ood, and all that. So she's had some real eye-opening experiences, and now she's back home. She sees the Earth being invaded. She has a hand in stopping that invasion. Calls the Sontaran Sontarans, which is brilliant. Because that's exactly what Donna would do. And I'm running off at the mouth a bit now, so you need to stop me. So that'll that's my summary, my long summary, my drawn out cliffhanger, which I can't let stop. Just goes on.
So we've got some comments from listeners to come to in a minute, but just to say, because part of the reason why we looked at these ones was because of Bernard, and it's so good to see him in it, and he's clearly having a great time, and I think doing the show meant a lot to him, and it's going to be very bittersweet to see his appearance in the 60th next year, I think.
Because he did come back into it, didn't he?
Yeah, he
is coming back into it.
Yeah, he done some stuff for that. So yeah, just great character, and he obviously had very good friendship with Russell as well, and he kind of developed the character to suit Bernard and his strengths and things. So and you can tell that David and Catherine really enjoyed their time with him and their scenes with him, and the warmth and the friendship and that relationship between them all is genuine, and it comes across on screen. So he's brilliant. So let's go.
And don't forget, he was there in Dalek's Invasion of 2150 as well.
Yeah,
so he's spanned the eras.
Yes, he's been there really from the early days. Yeah, on the big screen. Yeah. So let's take a look at some comments now. So we've got a comment from Marigold here, who is at
Yay Marigold. Hello.
Gaillardia Fever. I hope I've said that right. Apologies if I haven't. They've said probably my favourite moment is when the genius kid / villain has a tantrum, just screaming "I'm clever" at his fleeing fellow geniuses. I'd never ally with Sontarans, but I know the pain of realising that being smart doesn't mean you have friends or an easy life. And I kind of spoke a bit about that.
Because that's what you were saying, doesn't it?
The Doctor, yeah. Marigold also gave us a couple of other tweets here. Wilf is amazing. His relationship with Donna is so beautiful. I do always wonder why they never take him out in the TARDIS just to see the moon or look down from above. It would mean so much to him, and that's a lovely thought there. Really, maybe there'll be a book one day, a story one day. The only thing I didn't like in this story is the way Martha says at the beginning, "and I'm bringing you back to Earth." It makes me cringe every time.
Cringy.
I managed to skip it on my recent rewatch, they said. So Orinoco McGee, who's at Deadly Night, says, "What's not to love? You've got a groundbreaking episode with the return of the Sontarans, featuring Christopher Ryan as a superb villain, a reunion with Martha, as well as that smelly vat clone, and of course Wilf, who steals every scene. A top-notch two-parter." Quokka Mocka, who's at Mocka Quokka, I hope I've said that right as well, says, I actually did the subtitles for these for Netflix, and out of season 4, these were the easiest to do apart from David Tennant talking so fast.
Oh, you mean they wrote the subtitles? I mean,
presumably, yeah. It was hard to get the reading speeds down and still keep his lines intact. I love season 4 and Donna's family. When I first saw this on broadcast, I really thought they were going to kill Wilf off as a sort of drama moment for Donna. And I was ready to hate it after the cliffhanger. My favourite bit is still Donna alone on board the ship. A good mix of creepy concern for the character and humour. You've got 3 fingers. Just to put a hand on the thing.
That's right. Yeah. But do you know, actually, just to say about that, because we moved on from it in the thing, but it's that if it was Rose in that situation, you wouldn't feel, I mean, I'm talking from my own perspective, honestly, but I wouldn't feel like she was in as much danger as Donna, because Rose somehow seemed more prepared or more forward in taking on that kind of situation. She would happily go through an alien ship and find the bit that she needed to do. And although she might feel afraid and slightly anxious and all the rest of it, because you would if you were in there, right? Yeah. But I think Donna's reaction is like, she never signed up for this. This isn't why she's here. She's here to be a friend, a mate to the Doctor. And I think he knows that as well. And he does seem actually genuinely concerned about having put her in that situation where she has to go out. It's still one of the few times the Doctor's said it, "I'm so sorry," and I actually feel like he means it. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, no, I think that's quite an interesting point there. Yeah, you don't really know what else to say.
And they have some fun with it as well, you know. So
yeah,
which is always good. But yeah, it's a unique thing to Donna's character, I think, because I can't really think of any other companion where that might be replicated in exactly the same way. You know, it's somebody who didn't really signed up for this is having to do something really quite heroic and possibly terminal, because you know, it could easily go pear-shaped.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah. So Geekier on the inside at KTC as a geek says, "Not my favourite of the Sontaran stories, but the scenes with Wilf are entirely what set it apart to me. His warmth and tears when he's seen Donna return home make me cry every time." And Herald of Creation says, "An odd misfire for Series 4, which seems to hark back to the faults of Series 1 to 3. The human villain has no independent agency, as we know he is working for the Sontarans from the word go. Not bad, but looks less accomplished than the rest of Series 4. It's always so interesting how people see things differently, isn't it?
I think that is probably what I used to think about it until I watched it again recently.
Right.
I see where they're coming from, and I get it, but for some reason on this recent rewatch I was able to watch it and just not worry about those sort of things. Actually, just enjoyed the story for what it was.
I never thought of anything like that.
Yeah,
maybe that makes me stupid. I don't care, but
you're stupid. You are. Your stupidity is ubiquitous, Jeff.
You see, you're stupid. You are.
You're stupid. You are, Sunshine. I don't know why you do this. You're dumb.
You see that shriveled mushroom at the back of the fridge? That's your brain. That is. I'm referencing the Mary Whitehouse experience there, if anyone knows that.
Milky.
Lovely.
Moving on.
People are probably like, what? Look it up on YouTube, you'll laugh.
No, don't. It's of its time, definitely.
So the Grand Serpent has tweeted us from his rocking space, using the name @.
What else has he got to do out there, eh?
Got naffle to do out there, yeah. Wilf was a brilliant character, and I'm glad he was reunited with the Doctor. It's a brilliant episode. David Tennant is amazing in it, and I loved seeing Martha back too. So that's great. Glad you enjoyed it, Grand Serpent, sir. Amy, who's at Spencer Tracy fan, says Wilf was good as always. Always a joy to see. The episodes themselves were okay, probably a 4 or 5. I felt it was a waste of Martha's return. I like seeing Martha come back. I felt the episode that follows this with the Doctor's daughter, she was a bit sort of underused in that one, and had to have a weird emotional scene with a fish tank creature, which whilst the rest of the episode was great fun.
It's always a weird one as well. I think when when one of the characters is kind of cloned or is not actually them for much of the show. It's like Hawkeye
Clark.
in Avengers.
Yeah,
when he's not really him.
Zygon.
Well, I think maybe that. But I think because Martha's not a regular at this point, she's back in it. Good to see her again, but we don't actually see much of Martha. We see some at the front, some at the start, and some at the end of episode 2. Then, and that's it. All the Martha we see in between is not actually Martha.
Not her, is it?
No, that's it. So I get that tweet actually. I can, and again, this is a thing that I used to dislike about it previously, but again, weirdly, I must be getting old or something, or just. Maybe not as critical as I used to be, but I just didn't care about it this time. I just enjoyed it for what it was. I honestly did. I was expecting to come on here, Jeff, and say, well, this is definitely not one of my favourite stories, Jeff. And
So this is from @Disciple of Brad, who's Matthew. Often overlooked because of how good Series 4 is, but I do love this story. Christopher Ryan is great as the villain. Wilf being reunited with the Doctor is iconic, and the cliffhanger is one of the best we've gotten. So I do agree with that, although, like we said earlier, it's a bit long and drawn out. And then we've got one from Ghost Monument /Heartstopper, who's at Sherlock242. I love these episodes. I love the bit when the Doctor wears the gas mask and says, "Are you my mummy?"
Are you my mummy?
So I've meant to mention that earlier, but forgot, so that tweet kind of teed that up nicely for me. So, yes, I think that, overall people have enjoyed that episode.
Yeah,
and
mostly
I've certainly re-enjoyed. I've enjoyed revisiting it again, and had a good time with it. So yes, we've talked for quite a long time now, and if you're still listening, thank you, and
thank you very much.
You've enjoyed our thoughts on the episode, and if you rewatch them at some point, you might see some stuff in them that you had previously not seen. So we will be back for another podcast very soon, and we will catch you then.
Yes, indeedy. Thank you for listening. Take care, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now.
Bye.
Attention, you weakling human scum! This is Commander Marshal Paul of Hulkornet Kontar. Right, I'm going to do that again. Do it again. Wait.